Good evening, Greyhounds. Can everybody hear me okay? Hello. It's so good to be with everyone tonight. Welcome. My name is Eileen Hebler. I recognize some faces, and I see some new faces as well. September always brings that joy of kind of seeing some new faces on campus as well. So again, welcome. I serve in the Rizzo Career Center as the Director of Partnerships and Recruiting. So I work with companies and organizations who ultimately want to hire our Greyhounds. So it brings me great joy when that happens. But that is a very long process and a process of many steps. So I commend everyone for being here tonight because you're about to grow your network and learn from someone amazing and learn some things that you can adapt personally and professionally. So that's exciting. Tonight we used a QR code to check in. If by any chance you did not have a chance to do that and could do it on your way out, that would be helpful, just so we know that you're here. And if we wanted to correspond with you after, that would be helpful. Our event tonight is in collaboration, not just with the Rizzo Career Center, but also with the Sullinger Scholars. So we appreciate that effort there. Matt Rogers is part of the Sullinger Scholar Group who helped out plan this event. And Milan Brown is representing our Rizzo Career Center team. Milan is a Loyola Career Ambassador and helped plan and spearhead this event as well. So thank you to Matt and to Milan. With no further ado, Matt and Milan are going to introduce our speaker tonight. I just invite everyone to maybe put your phones away, try not to be distracted, put yourself in a space of being able to soak in some really amazing content. When we tell you that this is a very special presenter, we mean it. We don't say that lightly. So if you could just kind of limit distractions and just enjoy your time with us, we'd appreciate that. So Matt and Milan, you're up.
Hi Greyhounds, how are we doing? Okay, so I'm going to be reading the bio along with Matt for our speaker. Ms. Ellison-Taylor is the former Executive Director, Finance Thought Leadership of Oracle Corporation and the Chief Executive Officer of KET Solutions, LLC, which she founded in 2021.
During her 17-year tenure with Oracle, Ms. Ellison-Taylor held senior leadership roles, including Executive Director of Finance Thought Leadership, Global Strategy Leader in the Cloud Business Group, Global Strategy Director in the Finance Services Industry Group, and Executive Director and Global Leader of the Health Human Services Labor Solutions team. Prior to joining Oracle, she served as the Chief Information Officer for Prince George's County Government in Maryland and also held roles at KPMG, Motorola, and NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center.
She holds a bachelor's degree in Information Systems Management from the University of Maryland, Baltimore County, a master's of Business Administration degree from Loyola University, so she's one of us, and a master's of science degree in Information Technology Management from Carnegie Mellon University. She is a certified public accountant, a certified internal auditor, and a certified information systems auditor.
Ms. Ellison-Taylor also serves on the board of directors of Mutual of Omaha Insurance Company and U.S. Bancorp. She's also an adjunct professor teaching emerging technology and innovation for Carnegie Mellon University's Heinz College Executive Education Program. She is a past chairman of the American Institute of CPAs and a past chairman of the Association of International Certified Professional Accountants. So without further ado, let's give a warm welcome to Ms. Kimberly Ellison-Taylor.
I should also mention that I am a very proud member of the Beta Alpha Psi chapter here at Loyola. Woohoo! Yes, I became an honorary member last year. So, I'm going to put my glasses on, and I'm going to pull it up on my screen so that I can see it as I am clicking through the slides. So, if I click well, the slide behind me is basically my background, and it's with me in that beautiful Loyola green dress, which I have on my Loyola green today. So I hope you all appreciated that. One of the things I just wanted to highlight about this particular slide is my family. And I think for some people, they're wondering, can they have a career and can they do amazing things and have a family at the same time? My husband and I were college sweethearts, so that's always interesting to people. We met in our sophomore year, and so it was really, really special. And our kids, who I have a 20-year-old and a 22-year-old, they like to hear the story. So maybe one day you'll hear the story too. So the next thing I'm going to do is kind of set the stage for what we're going to be talking about. So we're going to be talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I will tell you, my favorite part of the discussion is around inclusion, because I ultimately really do believe that if we all work together, we will be so much farther ahead than if we're in divided silos. And so on the screen would be, I would say, evidence of universities and organizations doing their best to have equity and inclusion. And I will give you an example right up front on what I mean by diversity, equity, and inclusion. There are multiple dimensions of diversity. People focus on age, race, and gender, but what about left-handed people? Who's left-handed in this room? You're here. Left-handed people. Just think if you went through your day where everything felt like it was backwards for you. What would the rest of us do if it was us? What would we do? How many people in this room identify with being introverted? You know it. You can take or leave people, they exhaust you. You can do it, but we exhaust you. And at the end of the night, you are curling up in your bed, and back when Game of Thrones was on, you're watching the repeats, because you just need to recharge. What about people who basically, let's say, this is a little silly, but I didn't realize I was a cat lover. So now I'm a cat lady, and I didn't know that. Because for all the years my kids were young, they wanted a dog, I said, no, who's gonna watch the dog? My son went to college in the pandemic, and I was worried. I was like, oh my gosh, is he gonna be okay? Is his mental health gonna be okay? And so he was like, you know, of course, totally leveraging my guilt. He was like, Mom, I should just get a cat. And I was like, okay. And I was like, but you're doing everything with this cat. I don't want anything to do with the cat. And now it's my cat, basically. So, who are the cat people in this room? And who are the dog people? Who are the I don't want anything to do with any animals people? I say that all of this kind of in fun, but there are so many elements of diversity. And we focus on the ones that are visible, but there are some that we just don't know. And so when I talk about diversity, I just mean being different in any capacity, in any way. I don't just mean race or age or gender. The other thing I would say about equity, and we're going to talk a lot about this, is that from an equity perspective, that's not what I aspire to. I want us not to need it. Ultimately, I want us to be in a place where anybody across any dimension, you're short, you're tall, you need some assistive devices, whatever it is, that you could be the best version of you. You could get your dream job. You could go out in the workplace. Nobody would racially profile you. They wouldn't say, oh my gosh, I hear them speaking another language. What are they saying? You would be your best version of yourself. That's what I want. So when I saw this slide that said justice, I was like, oh, that's what I want. But guess what? We're not there today. We are not there today, and I will tell you, we are as polarized as we ever could be. Now, I will tell you, since we are friends in this room, that there are a lot of things going on in the world. I personally think if I was a bad person in one of those countries, all I'd have to do is rip off a Band-Aid of a wound that never healed. And the next thing you know, you've got us fighting. We're not even thinking about all the other stuff that we should be thinking about. We're thinking about how we don't like this person because of this, or we don't like that person because of that. I think that if we all do our parts, that we can do better. So I'm not angry. I don't walk around angry. I'm frustrated, but I'm not angry. And I will tell you, I think frustration is a place where you can channel it and you can do something about it. Anger is not productive, Because what are you going to do with it? It's just going to make you not be someone that we want to be around. And I will tell you, in an environment where relationships are important, you're going to push off the people you might most need to be a sponsor or to be a mentor or to be a coach. So if you want to take advantage of the best that the world has to offer, channel that frustration into action, because I think that's better off and ultimately where we need to be. When people try to talk down about diversity, the first thing they'll say is, oh, well, this is not fair. Well, most things are not fair, and people are okay with it. I don't watch boxing, but I understand that you couldn't put a 300-pound guy in the ring with someone that was 150 pounds. And they are okay with your boxing by weight class. We have categorizations. We get in golfing, people get handicaps. In golfing, they're doing equity in golfing. So they are familiar with the concept. At home, when people talk about equity and they're like, oh, I don't know what this is, it's not there. Well, I know. How many of you have brothers and sisters? How many of you have seen your parents do something different for your sibling than they did for you because they said you didn't need it? That's equity. Now, of course, it wasn't fair. You didn't like it. I know I didn't like it either. I'm a middle child, so maybe I have middle child syndrome, I will tell you. But we know what it looks like to give people what they need to succeed. And right now, we're in a place where people are talking about equality, but it's not equality. I think it's justice that we are striving for, where we wouldn't need any of this in the first place. So what I say is that we all have a role to play. Now, I know that it's easier to say what someone did, what you did, what the police did, what somebody else didn't do. I get that, but that's not productive either. So in any discussion, and I'm gonna tell you, this has helped me be married for 27 years, so I'm giving you this information right now. In every interaction, there's always something you can do, there's always something someone else can do. If you have a best friend, a cousin, a brother, your mother, you get into an altercation and you're like, well, you did this and you did that and you did this, you have to say, how can I make this better by changing my behavior? And so while I know that it is hard to take the high road, I will tell you it's benefited me so many times, because you can try to get your lick back if you want to. But if you lie down with dogs, you'll get up with fleas. You cannot try to get someone back. Take the high road, because I think ultimately that's what's going to benefit us. The reason that I'm talking more about equity is because when people have equity, they feel included. So I've been places as the only in the room. Not so much the youngest anymore, but it used to be a time when I was the youngest in the room, the only female in the room, the only one from Baltimore in the room, the only one that came from a different social economic background, the only black person, the only minority in the room. You gotta be confident so that you can feel included. But here's the thing, when you know what you're gonna say and you know your material, that can foster and promote inclusion. When I went to college, I spent a lot of time in all of the tutoring centers, and then I became a tutor, because it was important to me, coming from the inner city of Baltimore, to make sure that I could keep up with the caliber of work as my colleagues. Because I knew that my inner city schools were not on the same level as some of the other schools. No fault of the teachers, it's just that they may have had 35 kids in a room as compared to some students that had 20 or 15 kids in a room. It's just the difference, and recognizing my limitations, I adjusted for that. And so I will tell you, when we start talking about what you can pick up on as you get ready to go out into the world, you already have had internships. How do these challenges show up? They show up in hiring. Because what'll happen, if you look at some of the ads, they may say something like, We need someone, this is made up completely. We need someone who has 30 years of experience doing Python. 30 years ago, we weren't even talking about Python. So it would be unfair to ask for something that only 5 people maybe can do. And so that's why it's so important in the hiring process that we take a look at what we're really asking for. For instance, with remote work, we have people who could be in Wyoming and Montana now having an opportunity to be at really successful locations, whereas if they were in some rural town, they wouldn't be able to get some of the same opportunities as if you live closer to a city. So looking at hiring, and now they're really trying to decide, do we need these things that we've asked for? As a matter of fact, the governor, the previous governor, took off college degree requirements for probably like 25,000 state jobs or something like that. And the reason they did that is because that could hold people back from having gainful employment. The other thing is, as it relates to compensation, how many of us have heard, and this is mostly as it relates to women, that women are getting like 67 cents on the dollar as compared to men for doing the exact same work? Now, men, you're at the table. It might not be now. It might be 5 years, 10 years from now. When you get, and I have no doubt you're going to be in charge, you're going to be a boss, you're going to lead teams. When you look at that list and you're like, why is Kimberly, who came in from Loyola at the same time as Matt, why is Kimberly from the same major, she had a 3.5, he had a 3.45, same background, why did he come in making $25,000 more than she did? Because you can track it back to when we first enter into the workforce, and then what happens is I'm always behind. It's hard to make up a $25,000 or $10,000 pay gap when I started out behind. And so for those of us, it won't be now, but it will be one day, when you're in a position to make a difference, make the difference. The other part is feedback. Now, some of you, it is a little hard to get feedback that's not positive. I get that. But not getting feedback is also an element of a challenge that people who are diverse across any dimension has. Because when you get feedback, you learn to do it better. If you get no feedback, you're consistently doing it wrong. And so when it comes time for a pay increase or to get a promotion, you're not getting it because you've been messing up for 2 years and no one told you. Meanwhile, the person who's been getting the feedback, you need to do it over. You need to start like this. You need to add this. You're like, wow, this person is so hard on me. I want you to turn that around and say, wow, this person is helping me. Think of feedback as someone helping you. And if you don't get it, you're going to be in big, big trouble. The next part about that would be performance evaluations. How does that show up? And it can show up in assignments in schools and universities as well, where, let's take writing a paper. It's very subjective. For one teacher, it would be an A. For another teacher, it would be a B-. But people have different styles. That's okay. But it's not okay if it's because of some arbitrary characteristic that you can't control. And sometimes it definitely shows up. We don't even know until you say, wow, this paper, I had all these sources. I had 15 sources. I did all this work and I only got a C+. And the other person's like, oh, wow, I wrote it last night before I went to bed and then to that party. Listen, I put 2 sources in, I got an A+. And you're like, what? How did that happen? Now, that's not to say we don't have geniuses that can do that, but it sometimes can denote bias. And we all have to be aware of what that looks like. The other thing I would say, and I'm just going to go down to cultural insensitivity. So we're in a place in the world, and especially we'll say in the United States at least, it's mostly Christian. So our holidays are based on Christian holidays. We're off on Saturday and Sunday. Some people would want to work on Saturday and Sunday. Some people would rather work on Christmas. Some people don't recognize Easter. I know that's blasphemy for some of you, but the lightning bolt hopefully won't get me. But the reality is people have different belief systems. And so we have to be conscious of when you're in the majority, just as conscious of what that would feel like as when you're not. Because it's easy to be like, oh my gosh, they didn't have a bathroom for me. But is that the same energy you would have for the Muslim student or the student who's Buddhist, and have that same energy when their holidays aren't being recognized at all? And so we just have to be, as leaders, conscious of different people's belief systems and respect them. The other one is accessibility. Now, in some organizations, it's not that they don't have elevators, because that's the ADA and they have to have elevators. It would be something as benign as saying, in this room, oh, I talk really loud. I don't need a microphone. But for the person who has a hearing aid, they might would want me to have a microphone. And so we have to be conscious, even if we don't know anyone who does, because sometimes people don't speak up. I use a microphone everywhere because I'm thinking about who's not speaking up that cannot hear me or cannot hear us clearly. So there are definitely red flags that show up. Ultimately, the goal is for each one of us to feel comfortable in our own skin, no pun intended, and to know where we fit inside the organization. And so we have had lots of culture, well-being, belonging, inclusion initiatives, and somehow we don't seem to get as much traction. I will tell you, it's because it's not required for everybody. When it's not required, just like an apple can spoil the whole barrel, one person, it takes one person to ruin someone's experience. So we all need to know what microaggressions are. We all need to know the things that we do unconsciously and may not even have a clue that is happening. Okay, so when we think about the business world, there's a lot going on. You know, just like I said, the business world and all of the things that we're talking about today is complex, because we're thinking about, well, I don't know, I didn't watch the news because I was coming here. Did we cut the rates? Did the rates get cut? How much? 0.5? Okay, so we've been forecasting that for a while. Everyone's been talking about it. Now, for some people, they will be excited. But if you have a diversified portfolio, you're like, oh, no. It just depends on how your business strategy is working. Here are a number of industries. People are the cornerstone of all of them. I know we're talking today about Gen AI, we're talking about artificial intelligence, but you know what? No matter where you go, it's people. You're gonna have to interface with people who are most likely different than you. If they're your employees, they're your customers, they're your clients, they're your business partners. So you have to be comfortable with people who are different than you. And at the same time, when we think about how fast everything is going, today we'll be talking about these interest rate cuts. Tomorrow it could be Ukraine. The next day it'll be China. The next day it'll be Taiwan. It's the election every day. I mean, I don't even turn on the news. I don't know how many of you have just kind of turned some of it off. It's a lot. And so when we think about people, if someone was Ukrainian and they were coming into the office, or they're your friends, if you know that, you can exhibit some sympathy for them. And companies have tried to get a little better at that, but I will tell you this, if you have a need, you need to speak up. If you're Russian, I mean, I have a client where they did a discussion, so with someone there who was Ukrainian, but there was someone there who was Russian. And I feel for them too, because guess what? No one called either one of them and said, let me just get your opinion about what decisions we're making. But they're there living with the decisions that were made that they have no control over. So instead of choosing a side, we can choose the human side and sympathize and listen. Sometimes all you can do is just listen to what people are saying. From a business perspective, however, they're spending a lot of time thinking about what's around the corner. The pandemic was not anything that anyone was thinking of. I'm just going to be honest. We have a lot of models. We look at risk. A global pandemic was not modeled in actuality the way that it actually happened. And people are what pulled it through. People went home and worked harder and longer than they did in the workplace. People were the ones going out every day. The DoorDash people, God, thank you for the DoorDash people. The Uber Eats people, the police officers, the teachers, the people who were coming to work every day when some of us were at home. And those are heroes to me because I was scared. I thought we were going to die every other day. I was like, oh my gosh, this is the day. I might as well eat this mac and cheese because I don't know what's going to happen. So I had a good time in the midst of all that because I just took off all the barriers. Here are a listing of things that companies are thinking about. And while I wish they could think about diversity, equity, and inclusion, they have a fiduciary responsibility to their shareholders. They've got to make money. They got to cut expenses. They got to expand. They got to get new and more market share. They've got to have competitive advantage. They got to drive innovation, all the things. And this is one area, but it's not the only area. And so when we look at this listing, to the extent that you can add value and you can make a difference around any of those things, then that's going to put you ahead of anyone else. Because ultimately, my goal for all of you would be, you are leading based on your credibility, your competence, and your experience. That's not where we are today. But I keep praying that it will be. Because things are up and things are down and things are up and things are down. There are certainly roles that there is no one really doing. And so like Gen AI, all of the opportunities and the jobs and the roles and the policies that will come as a result of Gen AI is going to totally change our curriculums. It's going to change how we work and the things we do. You want to get ahead of the curve. You want to have competitive advantage. I think it's data, analytics, and all the things, and it's some form of technology. So no matter what your role is, if you said, Kimberly, I'm a liberal arts major, I'm going to tell you there's a Gen AI implication for you that will add value when you go into business. So we got to talk about what the strategy is. What do we do? Well, when I talk about the strategy, what do we do? It comes back to people. People will tell you it's people, process, and technology. People are all over the world, and as a result of this technology, you could easily be working with a team 200, 300, 500 miles away, maybe 20 hours on a plane to Australia. Now, if I just did like this, would you all know what that was? No, I'm just sorry. Nobody got the joke? The lady who was doing the breakdancing. I am doing that dance. That was so hilarious to me. But I will tell you, people are different no matter where they are, but at the core, they're the same. Because people want to be appreciated, they want to be valued, they want to be loved, they want to have people respect them. And it doesn't matter where they are, because ultimately, unless they're different than this, I don't know what we're doing. And so when people are like, well, Kimberly, you know, people do some evil, wicked things, and they say evil, wicked things. That's true. But it's not everybody, because I would not be here where I am in my role if it was everybody. And so ultimately, this reflects all of us. And if we're going to be building teams in the work environment, this is what we have to be talking about. How do we build cohesive teams when everyone's backgrounds are different, their values may be different, how they grew up with a mom, a dad, divorced parents, not grandparents in their lives, not English as a second language, not went into the military, then went to college, not. So many different diversity dimensions. But if you're going to be the leader, you're going to have to bring them together in a team. And I will tell you, that's what I tell my colleagues. I tell them the same thing, because sometimes some of our colleagues will just focus on the work. Yes, but people won't be happy. People want to come to work and feel a sense of purpose, feel like it's a place where they actually can get things done, feel like there are people that are just like them, people who will actually say, hey, I saw the news the other day, hope everything's great, or hope you weren't there. Whatever it is, I think we have an opportunity for us to do our part and for the employers to absolutely do their part. Here are some of the things they're looking for in the workplace. And if you notice, none of them say black, they don't say white, they don't say LGBTQIA+, they don't say her, him, or they. They're just cross all of the different skill sets and capabilities that companies are looking for. So, you want to go to work and be your authentic self. Absolutely, you should. But you have to be appropriate, that's what I say. But at the same time, you've got a GSD, get stuff done. Get stuff done. I know, don't look. Get stuff done. Everybody knows what GSD means. Get stuff done. Because then when you say, hey, I have a concern that we don't have this ERG for people from Africa, you have more ability to speak up. And I'll tell you a little bit of inside baseball. When people before the pandemic wanted to work from home, there were people who were really just showing up like 3 days on the job saying they want to work from home. Some privileges you earn over time. And it doesn't matter what your diversity dimension is, it's because you've earned it, because you brought credibility, you brought experience. In my whole life, I've never wanted anyone to say that I was a successful black woman. Although people say it and I know what they mean, I wanted them to say I was successful and oh, by the way, she just happens to be a black woman. When I took the CPA exam, I didn't take the black test. I didn't take the girl test. I didn't take the Baltimore test. I took the test. I did something that was so hard on purpose because it's like the microphone dropping every time you walk into the room. Because no one could discount the fact that this is a very challenging and difficult exam. And so I would encourage you to get the credentials in your field, no matter what they are, because that enables competence and confidence in you and from you to other people. Because ultimately, you're all gonna go somewhere where you're gonna be one of only, of maybe 2 people, of the only people in the room. You're an accountant, you're a financial analyst, you're a policy analyst, you're a lawyer, you're an engineer, you're a doctor, whatever it is, this is still gonna be you among your peers. You have to feel comfortable with yourself and comfortable knowing that everything you think that your company should be doing, they're probably not gonna do, but they will listen to you and take your feedback if you GSD, because they know you're adding value to the organization. We don't start out with isms, and I just call them isms. We learn them. If you've ever seen kids on the playground, I don't care what color they are, I don't care where they came from, what country, what their parents do, they will play with each other. So it is heartbreaking when I've been to events with fully grown people working and it's people clustered off with people that look just like them. And I know that we all need a sense of community, but I think it's very important to get to know other people, step out of your comfort zone, and remember the day when you would have been on the playground and you didn't care what color anybody was or what their backgrounds were. So one of the things I spend also a lot of time speaking with our colleagues about is this notion of meritocracy. They believe it's a world where if you work hard, everybody will have the same thing. And then I say, well, what happens to the black guy who gets pulled over by the police? Or what happens to an environment where if you look Hispanic, you could get pulled up by ICE. And ICE might ask you for your passport. That's the immigration people who do the enforcement. Would ask you for your passport. Or if you are speaking your language and then someone says you speak English and they say, oh, you speak English so well, because they don't know that you could find it offensive. That's why I personally give people grace, because if I was going to be angry, I'd be angry all day, because some people actually, believe it or not, do not know what they're necessarily saying. So what I've said to them is that it is not the same race. It's not the same race when some of us go to schools where the teachers are taking the money out of their own pockets to buy materials. It's not the same race when we're in schools where we're worried about whether or not we're going to have heat or air conditioning. It's just not. It's not the same race when if I come to school every day, the best food that I got for lunch was the lunch. It's just different. And all of our backgrounds can be different, and it doesn't mean that any visible minority group has a monopoly on poverty, because we can all be poor, but it is 100% different. And so understanding that and appreciating that means you will be more inclined to be inclusive. So I was just at a conference 2 days ago. And here we are, I'm 54, people are a lot older than me. I'm probably one of the youngest people in this room of older people, because I'm on corporate boards now. So we had the lunchroom, and I'm gonna tell you, at 54, it can be intimidating, because no one wants to go into a room where half of the tables are already taken, people are already sitting down, and you have to be the one, think back to when you were in high school, walk up to the table and say, is the seat taken? Or who am I going to sit with? Or do I know anybody at this conference? That can be daunting no matter what age you are. So what I did was raise my hand when someone was looking for a seat and I didn't know them. And I said, hey, you can sit right next to me. Come on, we'd love to have you over here. And then I moved my bag and made room for them. Now, what if we all did that? What if we all made room? What if we all said, hey, you can come sit with me? That would take some of the pressure off across all of these different groups, especially for people who identify as being introverted. Because I get that. It's hard if you really feel socially awkward with people and you have to really get to know people, because some people, they're just shy. Some people are introverted, and some people could, be honestly on the spectrum on some level. I just had someone who was like 20 years old get tested, and they told me they had autism, and they did not know. So I just think we have to be, very, complimentary. I'm switching the slides on here, thinking I'm switching them up there. So as it relates to these particular areas, this is the list. To one, in the workplace, we're asking employers to make sure they're paying attention to the needs of these various groups. They're forming business and employee resource groups so that if a company had, let's say, 1,000 people across these various groups can get together. But what I've encouraged my clients to do is to say, and allies. Because it does us no good if only the Asian people get together and only the black people get together and then only the white people get together. That doesn't make any sense. And in some cases, how about if we had a group for hikers, a group for people who like sci-fi, a group for dog lovers? I think some of the interests definitely should go horizontal, but I get that people need a sense of community, so the code switching isn't so hard. And I get that. We all code switch. Everybody code switch. No one is probably 100% the same in every room. So when you have a community where you don't have to code switch as much, it does make you feel a lot more comfortable. But at the same time, we have to be able to work with other people if we're going to go to the top of the organization. So when it comes to people who would say, well, Kimberly, you got out. Look at you. You're successful. Why can't everybody do it? And then I say to them, well, it's funny you should say that, because whereas someone else could be a B student and do extremely well, I grew up with hearing you have to work twice as hard to get half the credit. You have to be an Olympian to get through the landmines, the navigations of isms that people have, their backgrounds, the things they say, the things they do. We're navigating, and it's exhausting for a lot of people. And so, yes, this is a picture of diversity. Do you know that there are people who would show up in the hospital and could literally say, you know what, is there another doctor? Now you're dying. Are you kidding me? You want another doctor? And so we know there is work to be done, because not everyone needs to be an Olympian to basically have a successful career in life. And I will tell you that I spent a lot of my career as a Caucasian man, 100%. And I know you had to double think. Yes, a Caucasian man. I didn't do whatever I thought women did. I didn't do whatever black people did. I didn't talk about my kids. I just was focused on the work. And so I was, in all intents and purposes, a Caucasian man. But I, over time, just learned that the best version of me is the me that I can bring all of myself to the work environment. Now, I've never had imposter syndrome, but I have had this desire to not rock the boat. Today, because I've earned it, I can rock the boat, and so I do. And so when I think about the ingredients of teamwork, whether it's an organization on campus, whether it's your leadership on campus, whether it's an internship, here are the ingredients of an environment that ultimately all of us would want to be in, where you have leaders that communicate with a clear purpose. They are standing on their values, and they don't just talk about it, they do it. And I do believe that we can do good and well at the same time. Sometimes people are like, oh my goodness, I can't do this. I can't be purpose-driven. I can't help people. I can't live with grace. I can't want to live to whom much is given, much is required, because I don't know what's going to happen. I think we can. I think we should. And so I will tell you that if you look at this, you look at that, that's me. And it just goes to show that although there are not as many black CPAs in particular as I would like them to be, it doesn't mean that we all can't grow and desire and pray and do things that are just beyond our wildest dreams. And so I want to check the time to see how much time we have.
Here I am, Kimberly.
10 minutes before questions?
It's totally up to you.
No, it's question time or 10 minutes until questions? Oh, no, 10 minutes and then we'll go to questions and I'll be ready. I saw you get up, I thought that was the cue, like the hook.
We call it Loyola Ready.
Loyola Ready. So this is me as a kid. And you know what, I think I'm just gonna go down here because I'm trying to make sure the slides are behind me and showing and keeping them in track. So that's me as a kid, but that's the iceberg. You know how so many times people will think that you were always successful, you never had hardships, you didn't have disappointments, nothing ever happened. I grew up in that neighborhood. That's the iceberg. So when I think about going to school and not knowing how to really use a silverware, and going to school and not knowing the difference between the salad and the dinner fork, because my diversity dimension also includes socioeconomic. I am the first person in my family to go to college. So that was something else that you have to overcome, but you gotta be self-aware. And I will tell you, for these gentlemen that are up here, the two at the top, when I became the chairman, and the one in the middle, so I'm gonna tell you their stories. Diversity in the workplace is challenging, but it can be something you navigate through, and there will be people always along the way. So the guy in the middle, he and I will get together and go to IHOP. I raised my hand and said, yes, I would take on this project. No one else, I was 25, well, and they were like 1 foot in the grave and the other one a banana peel. So that means they were like 32. So they were old. But so he put me in charge. And do you know, when I would walk into the room and I would sit in the middle, he'd say, because back then people were sitting at the head of the table. He's like, what are you doing? Well, I'm taking my seat. Your seat is at the head of the table. And when people would try to go around me, he would say, well, what did Kimberly say? And he's like, you know what, you need to talk to Kimberly. Kimberly's in charge, you should talk to her. He sent me to the presentations, the conferences. He gave me the resources and the confidence because he backed me. And one day when it was time to do the presentation on the project, I'm putting it together, I'm thinking, oh wow, this is great. And I was like, Mark, say this, I did the speaker notes. And he was like, well, why are you doing all that? And I was like, because I'm doing it for you. And he was like, no, you're doing the presentation. And I was like, I'm doing the presentation to your boss's boss? Absolutely. I did the presentation. He was nodding. You never present and you nod. I'm just telling you so that you know. You don't have to do it to your professors because they get used to it. But when you're out, if you really want the speaker to know who you are, be encouraging, smile. They will know it's you. Trust me when I tell you that. You'll know that one day when you get up to speak or present and you see somebody nodding, they're encouraging you. They're like, yes, you got this, crush it. That is totally what this guy did for me. And while you stumble, he's like, keep going, it's fine. You're like, yes, this is who I want to report with. And two, he gave me that confidence. That really kind of shaped my leadership style. The other two guys at the top are guys I work with at Oracle. Amazing guys. And I will tell you that at work, you shouldn't cry. Don't cry at work. Don't cry at work. This is the time where I almost cried at work because I had done all this work and they were going to split the role and give one half to someone and I was going to get a half. But where was the person when I was doing all the getting it off the ground, the begging for the money, the trying to do all the things? No one wanted it until it was successful. And then they were like, hey, we should split it. Oh, so now you want to split it? There was some isms in there, but I didn't go there. I called this guy, well, the one who has on the black jacket. I called him up and I said, Tom, I'm so upset. He could hear my voice was shaking. Have you ever called somebody and don't raise your hand, but your voice is shaking and they're like, what's wrong? Because they already know. And I was like, they want to take this job and divide it in half and give me this part. Remember when you said health and human? They were going to give me the health side and give the other person the human side. And he said, listen to me carefully. Don't take any more of their calls. And it was his boss, actually. Don't take any more calls. I was in Las Vegas. I had only been there like half a day. He said, go to the hotel, check out, get your clothes, come home. I was like, Mark, do you know how much this is going to cost? And he was like, I don't care. You're more important than that. You're upset. He said, there's no good. Now, all of us should know this. Don't send emails when you're angry. Never send emails when you're angry. And don't talk to people when you're angry. I got on the plane. He said, I've got this. I trusted him. And when I tell you, like 2 weeks later, it was gone. And I literally had just gotten there and left. And he has been an amazing, amazing, amazing leader. The other guy said, listen, they owe us some money, basically. I was like, what do you mean they owe us some money? I couldn't even figure out the calculations. It was some calculation on how we were going to get paid. I couldn't figure out the calculation. I would have signed it. But if you don't sign this document that says you agree to the plan, you can't get paid at all. And he said, don't sign it. I'm telling you, when I tell you they were pressuring us, and we're talking about, let's say, $100,000. And he was like, don't sign it. Every day they're emailing us saying, why aren't you signing this document? He said, don't sign it. I'm working on it. A lot of pressure. Now, how many of you know when it comes to money, some people would buckle because they're like, oh, you're going to get no money. You're not going to get paid at all. Don't sign it. I'm telling you, every day for probably like 9 days. And they worked it out. He got us our money. That is trust. And I can tell you that they paid us all the exact same because when we had the conversations about salary and bonuses, we were all in the room. To the penny, they paid us the exact same. And I appreciate that. I'm not saying companies should do that, but I can just tell you he did that. So ultimately, your companies have to meet some of the way. You're going to have to meet some of the way. You're going to have grace. Sometimes people say things and they put their foot in their mouths. And I had a colleague that said something that was a slur, but I don't think he really knew that it was. So I didn't like stand up in the room and say, wait a minute. I waited to the break. I took him to the side. I said, hey, you said something that I just want to go back. And I know you didn't mean it, but this is what you said and this is what it is today. He was like, Kimberly, Thank you so much. And then he went at the break when we came back and apologized. And he fixed it. Every time of you correcting someone, it doesn't have to be a CNN press conference. Sometimes you can give people the grace of letting them correct it. Now, sometimes it's something so bad that you might have to say, hey, Kimberly, did you really mean to say that? Kind of like give them an out. Because if you don't, you're going to be that person carrying the weight of trying to correct all the world's wrongs. And I think there's a way to do it, and then there's a way not to do it. So when you're in organizations, you should always be asking about the culture, if that's where you're permanently going to work. For an internship for 10 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, you can get through almost anything. But you want to know about the culture, the tone at the top. Are the people on the website really people that you see? Now, I will tell you, I've seen a lot of websites where they had to go down to like, when you look at the titles, they had to go down to like analysts to get any diversity or to even get women. And I think women are low-hanging fruit. We should definitely have women, and they're not there. So here's how you can help. Definitely educate yourself. Don't just go with someone else and what they said, how they said it. Find your own path. Find your own way. And I will tell you, I've had to do that so many times, and it has definitely worked out for me. Don't co-sign bad behavior. I'm not co-signing bad behavior. If you're there, you're an accomplice. And you don't want to be an accomplice to bad behavior. And sometimes you just might have to be busy. If someone is really, really bad, you know, you got to step out of your comfort zone, go to events, have allies come to your community groups. It should be diverse, should be inclusive. People should feel like you want them to come. Because if you have an event and they're there at the door, someone should be at the door greeting, saying, hey, welcome, come on in. Glad you came. Because they might come back. But if you are all one group, and it could be even down to majors. Let's say we have only accountants in this room, but someone who was majoring in psychology came to an accounting event because we opened it up to the campus. Someone should be at the door, greeting them, welcoming them, and then if people talk about accounting too long in clusters, say, hey, we got some non-accountants here. We don't want to talk about accounting all night because we don't want them to feel uncomfortable talking about what 95% of the room want to talk about only, and not giving this person some, hey, how's psychology? What's going on? What kind of classes are you taking? Be an ally and just do what you can when you can. I'm not saying go out and be an activist. I am saying that we are all ambassadors. We're all responsible for the behaviors of only ourselves. We can't change people, but we can be an example. And I think that has always worked out for me. And you saw I grew up in the inner city of Baltimore, the hood. So it is not something that I'm just thinking about. It's something I know firsthand. So thank you, bosses, for inviting me to come. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So do we have questions? Who's brave? Oh, yes. And I see you, I saw that when I said come and step out of your comfort zone. I see you doing it. Awesome. High five.
Hi.
It's not on? Or maybe I should stand back.
I can project. Okay. My name is Cece Grimberg. I'm a freshman this year. My question had to do with your CIA. What was your path to getting that, and how did you know you wanted to go into the management side of info systems versus dealing with data itself?
So here's the thing. First thing, I believe in and, not or. Right, so that's the first thing. The second thing is I wanted to be a CPA in the 3rd grade because someone came to my school and said, be a doctor, be a lawyer, be an engineer. I wanted to be a CPA. When they said accountants manage the money, yes, because when you manage the money, you're the boss. Money rules the world, capital markets, the language of business. I didn't know all that. I just knew that one day I was going to have enough TVs for every room because we had one TV, and I just wanted a lot of TVs. But it kept me focused. But when I went to UMBC, they had econ. They did not have accounting because that's at College Park. So I said, what am I going to do? And they said, well, you just have to take the classes. You don't have to have the major. So I studied information systems and came back and did accounting. So I've always been the business-centric technology person. I've never been the hardcore, although I learned the code in COBOL, Pascal, and Java later on, I was never that person that was gonna be more of the hands-on. Because when I was at NASA, I was managing the mainframe data center, and then I went to KPMG and did accounting and technology together. So I was always walking and, not or.
Thank you so much for being here today. My question is more general, just maybe like two things. So what's like your one biggest piece of advice? And my second question is, what was the highlight of your career to this point?
Oh my gosh, it's still happening, so it's so hard. So the pieces of advice I would say, I'm a planner. I'm the person that has a plan. But sometimes I had to recognize that you could still move, but it might be a horizontal move. All moves are not vertical. And sometimes you have to just realize that an opportunity, like Motorola, was completely a step over. And I ended up leaving after a year, but I don't regret it because I got like 20% more, got a car to drive, I had new experiences, and it helped me when I was going to the next role. The other thing I would say is that when I was going and trying to do corporate boards, I did not get the first two boards that I interviewed for. Did not. So disappointed, crushed. But do you know the two boards I got were 2 times bigger than the one, and the other one was 4 times bigger. So a whole nother opportunity, bigger and better, came about. I truly, truly believe, and I believe this with all my heart, so if you can get this early, this will be good. God not only, he doesn't just call the qualified, he qualifies those he calls. And so I'm on a board today that's 175 billion with a B, because that was the new board that you all didn't have in my bio. And I say that to say, if you had said to me that I would be on a board that was $175 billion in revenue, I probably wouldn't have believed it. So don't take yourself, so seriously that you forget to have fun. I will tell you that it was relationships that helped me get on that board. I excel in people. I don't care where I am. I've been in Singapore, I've been in Sydney, I've been in Warsaw, I've been in the Caribbean, I've been in Mexico, I've been in all across Canada. I can connect no matter where I am, and I will connect with people. And I think that's a critical and important element. And if you get that part, you're already going to be ahead of the curve. I will tell you, for what's been like a highlight besides family stuff, probably when I became the chairman of the American Institute of CPAs. I mean, I failed the exam the first time. And to think that a little girl from the inner city of Baltimore could be the chairman of the world's largest accountancy body and be the first person of color, the 5th woman, and the youngest chairman. And when I talk about the first Gen X for sure, but also when I talk about, doing the things that are different, that was so different because I've always been more of a technology-centric CPA. And up until then, they were all public accounting. And we had like a banker, a government person, and someone else who was like in banking. So 2 bankers, a government person, and me. Just different. So when people say it can't happen, it can. It's just a matter of what relationships do you have. You should be tapping into the Loyola alum. The network is real. When people reach out to me and say they are alum from Loyola, I'm 100% prioritizing talking to them. So don't be afraid. I mean, I would do a LinkedIn search if I'm a Loyola alum who will give you time and who will help you if they can. So definitely being the chairman was a highlight for me, for sure. You're not surprised by that, are you, JP? That was a big deal. That was a huge deal. And the first in Maryland, too. It was a big deal. Yes.
Hi. So how do you recommend someone be their authentic self at work, making sure they're being represented, respected, and understood while also wanting to just go to work and go home, like get in, get out?
That's real. That is real. I appreciate that. It's not going to happen. Because people, remember I said people are the most important part? People. It's you know why? Because, okay, so let me give you an example. When I became the CIO of Prince George's County, I had to interview for the role. I had to have 5 people that reported to me, 5 people that were my peers, and 5 people that I reported into to even get on the interview slate. And then I had interactions with the driver, the person at the lunchroom. They asked every person that came in touch with me, what is she like? And then I had some speed interviewing, and then I was trying to eat. Thank God it wasn't like spaghetti. I was like, thank you, God. Because you can't really eat an interview and trying to eat spaghetti. So it was something really simple. But all of that basically was people. And when they said to me, Kimberly, a lot of people really like your style. They like your energy. How do I get any of that if I don't know you? You have got to step out of your comfort zone. Listen, authentic doesn't mean all of you. It just means the portion that you choose to share is authentic. I think we have overused the word authentic because it's like, I'm going to bring all of me to work. No, it's the part that you bring that's authentic. The other thing I will tell you is that when I became the chairman of the AICPA, you're on the board of directors. It's kind of like the Miss Universe or Miss America. Everybody in that room is a superpower. It's like the Justice League. Everyone in the room is amazing. If you were someone that wasn't confident, we had the CEO of Baker Tilly, the CEO of this company, billion-dollar companies in the room. So you're in the room with your peers, you're interacting with people, you don't know, you're being interviewed, you're being watched, you're being vetted. Every step you make, someone's watching you. And then, come to find out, those people also recommended me. On Accounting Today has a top 100 most influential people on accounting list. My peers voted for me to be number 3 on the list. My peers voted. So how could I have done any of what I just said without people? There is no way. The only thing you can really do is say, I'm here for today and one day I will have my own. And when you're the boss, you can call the shots. And when you set the table, you can serve the meal you want. But until then, if you want to rise to the top of the organization, you are not going to do it without people. People are watching you. If I had a major initiative and I said, oh my gosh, who should I give this initiative to? Who am I going to give it to? The person that at 4:59, they're walking out the door? Or am I going to give it to someone that's like, hey, I can't do it because I got childcare? I might would say, okay, I understand that because we all have family, elder care, all of that. People make allowances for that. But if it's really just like, ooh, these people exhaust me, I got to get out of here. That comes through. And I know you asked the question, but it fits. That question is the question for 10,000 people that I probably have come in contact with. They just didn't ask the question. But how are you going to get ahead? How are you going to become a leader? And now here is the point that I say to different groups, because I'm the immediate past chair of the AICPA's National Commission on Diversity and Inclusion. So I do a lot of this work. If you're diverse and I ask you to come and you don't come, and we have to start doing them at lunchtime. We can't only do it in the evenings because now we're disenfranchising the people that really got to get home because that's real. A lot of people have to go. They can't stay. So companies started adjusting it during lunchtime or doing it at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. But I ask you to come. I ask you to, hey, we're rearranging the schedule. Want to get to know you. You don't come. You're doing a good job, but you don't come. Now, when you don't get the job and your colleague gets it, you know what I tell my colleagues, my friends? You can't say it's because I'm a woman. You can't say it's because I'm short. Can't say my hair is brown, my eyes are green. You didn't come. You didn't GSD. You didn't do what you needed to do. The reason that I went through that whole thing is because I'm going to take every excuse off the table. I can outwork and out-nice anybody, but never is anyone going to be able to say, you didn't show up, you didn't come on time. My dad would say, early is on time and on time is late. Be early. No one has any excuse to say they're not going to give me the role. Even if I couldn't stay the whole time, I'd stay a little bit of time and say, hey, and then I would probably go to the big boss, whoever was there, and say, I'd really love to stay, but I got to go. Next time, I can't wait. I'll make sure I get this on my schedule. Because some people would just do pop-up stuff. And not everybody can just do pop-up stuff. So that's true. But I will say, I try to never use any of my diversity dimensions as the reason I didn't do something. When I failed the CPA exam, I failed it. I didn't study enough. That's it. What else could I do? I went back and I had the role at KPMG, so I worked. I had a review course. I didn't have one at the first, so I was working like, let's say 8 to 6, from 7 to 12. I would be studying, and then on review course days, I go review from 7 to 9:30, then I study from 10 to like 1. On Saturdays, from 10 in the morning to like 1 in the morning. On Sundays, I go to church, I come back, I study from 2 to midnight for like 5.5 months. I'm just not gonna make any excuses. If you want it like you want air. Want it that you're willing to put the work in. Want it so that no one could say and deny you. No one could ever call me a diversity hire. Now, could they? Just because they want to? Probably, yes, I will say that's true. But my credentials speak for themselves. And that's why I went and got them. Because I want to make sure that I do the things that I need to do. And now I have my own company and I can do what I want to do. And I think that's for all of us. Got to put the work in. Now, can mediocre people still get ahead? Yes, it's true. It's true. And it's not fair. I'm not saying that either. But when you're in charge, you can help it be fair. When you're in charge, you can help it be fair. That's why these conversations are so important, because we all have a responsibility. And if I had to do this every day for a year, I would, in the hopes that when you graduate, you will go out and make this world a better place, because Lord knows we need you right now. Can you all get big, please? Right now, we need you right now. What other questions do you have? Yes.
Hi, I know you spoke about preparing for the CPA and you spoke about like studying for a certain amount of time, but what would you have told yourself the first time around that you did the second time? Like, what advice would you give someone that's preparing to go and do their CPA exam? Absolutely.
So here's the thing. Procrastinated. That was the one thing. The second thing, I graduated valedictorian of my high school. I went to college on a full academic scholarship. So I was like, oh, how hard can it be? Oh my gosh, lightning bolt is really gonna get me down. How hard can it be? And I was at Motorola taking that little sidestep tour. And every day I was like, oh, I'm gonna get around to it. I'm gonna study. The books were not creased. I'm gonna get around to it every day until the night before. And all the people had given me advice. People will give you advice on how to pass it. I went back to the advice. I switched the job. I got a job at KPMG. I was surrounded by people who also wanted to be CPAs. My parents used to say this, your class with the company you keep. It's true. Because the people who are studying as hard as you will be studying when you're studying. The people who have easier classes than you, and I don't know what the major is. Every school has a major that's the easy major, whatever that is. They will say, oh, I'm just here, I finished my classes for the day. You're up all night studying. You got to get in the group of people who are also up all night studying. Find and match the energy of what you're trying to accomplish by being around people who are also trying to accomplish it. Because iron sharpens iron, and when you're around people doing amazing things, you will be also doing amazing things, because you're not going to sit back and be a lump while all these people are doing amazing things. You need to be in the group of people who want to take the world by storm. They're going to have a difference. They're going to have an impact. They're going to make change. That's who you need to be with. And if your friends are like, don't be with them. Tell them you're busy tomorrow. If they're in the room, don't look at them. Just know you'll be busy tomorrow. Yes, that's what I would say. Yes.
Hello. I like how you talked about like stepping out of your comfort zone. My question to you would be like, what are some ways networking and using social capital help you be in the position that you are in today?
Oh my gosh. So first of all, you have to be willing to be vulnerable. And there were people working on me that I did not even recognize were working on me. In the 10th grade, my English teacher had us videotape ourselves speaking. It took me 15 years before I realized what he had done. And that was to make sure I didn't ask to people to do things instead of asking. He didn't want me to be pacifically instead of specifically asking people to do things. And that helped, that repetition, because if you're born and bred in Baltimore, we definitely have our own language in Baltimore. And he wanted to make sure that we paid attention to that. And so every chance that I've gotten, when I went to UMBC, I've always been give back, give back, give back, developing my whole social value system and my skills. I pledged Sigma Gamma Rho sorority, founded by educators. We would sleep outside to have recognition of the homeless. We did food banks. We did march for this and march for that. I still do it to this day. I live a life of service. And if you believe in karma, then I believe truly that you reap what you sow. And I have gotten back way more than I've ever given. But I love to give. It's a part of who I am. And so I try to help anybody and everybody that I can. And that energy, the positivity, is what sometimes draws people to me, and they want to help me. They want to do things with me and for me because I am positive. If you're a negative person, you're going to attract negative energy. You want to have positivity. You want people to say, wow, I want to help you. What can I do? Can I give you a job? Can I give you a reference? Can I give you a scholarship? That's power. So it has very much helped me living a life of service. What's the question that you want to ask but you don't know you should ask? Who's got that question? Okay. You got a question? No questions, ladies over here? What's your question? None? Bosses? No questions? To our guys in the room, what do you think? I'm surprised to see so many more women than guys. When I went to Loyola, it was a lot more guys. And I love it that we're getting parity. I know it's probably still got a lot of guys outside here. Is it? Yes. Our cylinder class year is 50. Yes! 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 It was not that. I'm just telling you. I got my MBA from here in 1996. Don't tell me. Some of you, none of you were born. I get that. In 96, yes.
I was born in 96.
Oh, you were born in 96. None of them were born in 96. They were born probably in maybe 2001, 2, 3.
6.
Oh my gosh, they're babies. You're younger than my children. Okay, please link in. I don't know what questions you might think of when we're not here, but you already heard that I am favorable to Greyhounds. So just let me know how I can help and what I can do. So thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Greyhounds, we can do better than that. Another big round of applause. So a big thank you to Kimberly for sharing this time, all of her insights, these amazing slides. And by the way, this is like 1% of what she'll do this week.
That's true. That is true.
Just really, we'd like to extend our gratitude for that.
Absolutely.
If you are feeling some professional pull toward more conversations, toward time with our team in the Rizzo Career Center, we welcome you to connect with us. No matter where you are in your journey, no matter what class year, whether you've had an internship or not, If you're sure of what you want to do or you're not sure at all, we are here to help you. So please check out our website and please go to Handshake. Quick poll, who gets the Penelope Fleury email on Sunday night? I know you all do. Yep, we know. Who goes to Fizz? You don't have to answer that, but we know you do. My point there is that there's a lot of really great information that we put out on Sunday nights, including coming up soon in November, we will start kicking off our sponsorship program. Has anyone in the room been part of that program? Sponsorship. Great, big hands up, thank you. So the sponsorship program connects our undergraduates from underrepresented populations with alumni in their chosen field. And we have had upwards of north of 40 students participate in that program. So watch for that on Handshake, but especially in the top 5 email that comes out on Sunday nights. I'd also like to send a big shout out to Matt and Mellon for coordinating this with our team. And Greyhounds, Kimberly will be here. Should we do a selfie? I mean, this is your thing. She's going to do a selfie. And then, yes, and before you go, we do have some dessert in the back. Thanks for joining us.